What's up, badass Blackdesertmobile fans? The Korean server just received a massive update to most classes. Most of these updates focused on damage reductions or even PvP damage increases. However, they also gave a very nice rework to the Titan class. Now, I'm not usually a huge fan of covering what comes out on the Korea server because oftentimes when we get it, it's not the same. However, classes and skill buffs is not one of those things. All buffs, damages, evasions that all classes have on the Korea server are the same currently on global, with the exception of this recent update. Now, the Raven buff did take a little longer to receive on global, but we still got it. So you can expect to see these changes coming to us here on global. It could be next update, it could be a month down the road. Now, before we get into the good stuff, be sure to check me out on socials, as well as scrolling down and smashing that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, I strongly recommend doing so. And with that being said, let's dive right in. Up first is a damage reduction to all melee classes' dash abilities, and the translation says effect of reducing adventurers' damage by 15% on the rush technique, which is your dash abilities, on existing melee classes to apply to all skills, is what that's saying there. So what that says is all melee classes' dash abilities are damage reduction or getting reduced by 15%. And I know what some of you guys are probably thinking, wow, why are melee classes getting a nerf? And I mean, yes, it is technically a nerf in that sense, but you have to realize that these dashes abilities aren't meant for damage. They're meant to close the gap or evade targets. They're not meant for, the dash abilities are typically your lowest damaging skills. So for my class specifically, that skill does 700% damage for me, and it's going to get a 15% damage reduction on that skill. It's not a major deal. Like I said, it's not a skill that I use for damage. It's my gap closer. So yes, it is a nerf, but I don't feel like it's that major of a nerf. Up next is the second nerf, and that is improvements have been made to apply a 10% reduction on adventurers' damage while using melee skills. So this really affects melee classes. All of their melee skills are going to get a 10% damage reduction. So that is a little bit more of a nerf. That is unfortunate, but you will see here in a second that they did buff a couple other areas, and they did just recently buff some of the melee classes. So yeah, that is a little bit more of a nerf. So there's a 15% damage reduction on your dash abilities applied to melee classes and a 10% reduction on your melee skills. Up next is a pretty big one, and it's guild technology has been added that reduces damage received from adventurers while using melee skills. This does go all the way up to 5%. This is going to be a guild skill that your guild's going to have to level up using guild funds. But essentially, you can see right below here, I did count all these out as well, and it's going to get up to 5% damage reduction that you receive while using a melee skill. And again, that has to be leveled up from your guild. And you can see here what skills that each class is receiving, and I'm not going to go through each one of them. I will, however, tell you how many of each class is going to get this buff applied to it. So up first is the Gladiator, and they're going to get 8. So 8 of their skills are going to receive this damage reduction. The Berserker has 9. The Huntress only has 2. Again, they're a ranged class, so they're not going to get too much damage reduction. Windwalker has 7 skills. The Titan has 9 skills. The Destroyer has 8. The Archmage has 3. The Archmage, so I know a lot of people are like, that says Archmagician. This is the Archmage on the Korea server, and this is the Invoker on the Korean server. I didn't make these rules up. I'm just telling you how it is. That's how they have it labeled. You can go to their website and check it out yourself. All right, so we also, for the Paladin, they're getting 8 skills buffed. The Lancer has 8. The Shadow has 10. So all of their classes, aside from their heal, is getting a melee reduction when this skill is leveled up. Darkness has 6, so that's the Phantasma. The Lupa has 9, which is the Rang. Heaven is the Spirit Walker, and that's 10. The Raven has 3. The Reaper has 7. The Blade Master is your Apprentice, and that is 8 skills. The Warlord is Stepless, and that is 9. Tail is your Lotus, one of the newest classes that came out, and that's 8. Year is your Primrose, and that is 9 skills. And then we're going to skip a couple of these because these classes aren't out. So Investment, that is the Striker. That class is getting 9 skills, getting a damage reduction. And then lastly is your Hashashin with 8 skills, and that's the Sergeant right here. So that's all the skills and how many of each class is going to receive a damage reduction once the guild levels up those skills. Up next, we're going to talk about some buffs that they applied to PvE and some additional skills that they did modify for classes. Now, most classes didn't receive any buffs or nerfs. A couple classes, one skill here and there, did receive a little slight adjustments. But most classes, not all, did receive PvE damage increases for some of their skills. Up first here, the Snowflake. This is the Lotus class. And the first skill that they have is Red Moon that did receive a PvE damage increase. I'm not going to go through each of these because there's a lot of skills that received just a PvE damage increase. So I'm not going to focus on that as much as I will as like the Tribulation, the second one, added a knockback effect on the last hit. They also fixed a problem with the PvP damage on the last hit of the technology, which was not applied normally. The Tribulation skill is the third skill in the lineup for the Lotus, so that way you understand which skill I'm talking about. And then they also added PvE damage increase for Bitter Wind. PAFE, we have changed the mental recovery effect of the technology to the critical hit chance reduction effect. And they increased the maximum number of hitting entities on this skill from 3 to 5. So that means it used to have 3 hittable targets, and now you can hit 5 targets. So it's going to be able to be more reliable for PvE farming, so they definitely buffed that. And they changed the mental recovery effect to crit hit chance reduction effect. And this skill is the 5th skill for the Lotus in their lineup. They also received some PvE damage increases for some of their other skills as well. Primrose is the next one. There's nothing extra here, just PvE damage increases for a couple of their skills, so for 4 of their skills. The Huntress did receive some PvE damage increases for some of their skills, as well as some additional adjustments. Their first skill, Full Bloom, which is their first skill in their lineup. Improvements have been made so that you can use other technologies, other skills, quicker after using this skill. The attack judgment of the technology has been increased. The attack range and the PvE damage has been increased. So that's a little bit of a buff to their very first skill, which is great for farming. Wind Will, which is their Will of Wind, all attack ranges except the last hit have been increased. So again, they added some more range to that class. And Honest Blade, they increased PvE damage. Wind Up, the attack range of this last hit, so that's Razor Wind. The attack range of the last hit has been increased, as if that it wasn't a far enough range skill to begin with. PvE damage again. Feathers Flying in the Wind, that's your Crescent Arrow. Improves so that you can find the target of attack more quickly after using the skill, and they increase the PvE damage. Windwalker, nothing extra, just PvE damages to 5 of their skills. The Archmage, and again, this is the Invoker, not the Archmage. I know people are going to get confused, but I promise you, this is the Invoker. Residual Lightning, we have changed the stun effect to a knockdown effect when the technology, the skill, hits successfully. They also increased the attack speed of the skill and the speed of linking to other skills, and they increased the PvE damage. Discharge, PvE damage. The next skill, Guardian of Lightning, the behavior of the technology has been changed. They increased the cooldown time by 2 seconds, so from 3 to 5 seconds now. After using the skill, the speed of connection to other skills has been increased and added a knockback effect on the first hit and a knockdown effect on the last hit to the skill. They also adjusted PvE and PvP damages have been adjusted slightly. They also adjusted the PvE and PvP damage for this skill, and previously it was hitting on 2 hits, now it has 5 hits, so you're getting more hits out of it. It used to do 524% damage times 2, which is 1,050, and now it's going to do 364% times 5, which is like 18, maybe almost 1,900%. You're talking like a 775% increase on the damage of that skill. For PvP, they also buffed the damage. It used to do previously 1,050% damage, and now it does 1,270 roughly, so you're getting about a 200% increase on the damage of that skill for PvP as well. Waves of Crack increase the front and rear attack range of the technology, so they increase the range of that skill. Heavenly is the next class, and this class again is the Spirit Walker, and they did receive most of the skills, got just a PvE damage increase, with the exception of their White Tiger skill, I believe this one is, increased the cooldown time by 2 seconds, so from 3 to 5 seconds, and they increased the damage. So that's a slight nerf to the one skill for the Spirit Walker because they reduced the cooldown time by 2 seconds, so it takes a little longer to use that skill. The Ripper, which is your Reaper, Trampling of the Dead, your Death Circus skill. The attack range has been increased, solid. PvE damage has been increased, solid. Reaper's Judgment, PvE damage, Karshan's Wrath, and Karshan's Nightmare. That's just your Nightmare skill. They reduced the cooldown time on the skill by 2 seconds, so taking it from 12 to 10. This is primarily a PvP skill, but it's still solid. 2 seconds sooner that you can use the skill. You're not using the skill for PvE, although it did receive a damage buff. You're still not going to use it for PvE. Up next is the Destroyer. They didn't receive anything fancy, just PvE damage increases. The next class they're calling the Column. This is your Lupa, the class that I'm currently rocking, and they just received some PvE damage increases as well. We're going to skip the Hongrion. This is your Red Lotus, so this is your Lan class. We do not have this class yet, so when we get it, it's just going to automatically receive these buffs. In my opinion, that's how it's going to go. Mystic, again, we don't have that class. The Shadow, that is your Void Knight. She just received PvE damage increases. Darkness, this is your Phantasma. So increase the rear hitting range of the technology, a touch of exploitation. Vidir's Trap, we have changed the bound when first hitting success effect to bound when hitting successful. So it doesn't have to be the first hit. They're just going to bound. It doesn't matter as long as the hit is successful. The attack range of the last hit has been increased and the bound effect has been applied. They also did some PvE damage increases. They also correct the phenomena that the invincibility time of the forward avoidance technology was applied abnormally. Increase the distance to push monsters with some skills, so monsters get pushed back with some of the skills. Apprentice, again, is your Blade Master, one of the newest classes that we did receive. They just received PvE damage increases. The Pole class, this is the Warlord class. They again received just PvE damage increases. Same with the Paladin. Nothing crazy here. It will, obviously, these buffs are going to help with Hadum farming. Everybody's going to be better at Hadum farming, so I will have to do some new testing. I will pick a new spot to try to get a little bit different testing to see how the accuracy is with that. Maybe I'll get a little bit different results, as some of you guys have recommended. Lancer, again, just PvE adjustments. Striker is the investment class, just PvE damage increases. Shy, we don't have that class yet, so we're not going to worry about him. Gladiator, again, just PvE damage increases with the exception of Deep Poke. The attack range has been slightly increased. So that's their 11th skill. So it's going to have even further attack range than it currently does. And it's pretty solid range on that skill, so it's going to be even further. That's nice. The Archmagician, which is the Archmage on the Korea server, for those that don't know. Cold Fog, the maximum invincibility retention time when using the technology has been reduced, so a nerf. Increased the cooldown time of the technology by 3 seconds from 8 to 11. Another nerf. Thank you. So that's the only one that they got, though. So, I mean, it's something there that I feel like every update they're kind of nerfing the Archmage a little bit more until they find a happy balance there, because everybody knows it's one of the most OP classes out there right now. Fletcher, we're not going to focus on them too much. Sura, we don't have them. Again, I'm not going to focus on them. Lastly is the Titan. And the Titan, this is the last thing we have to cover for this. And they got a pretty solid rework for some of their skills. The first skill for the Titan that got a rework is Smackdown. And this Smackdown skill changed the take and hit skill part of the technology to a sweep technology. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here's what it looks like currently on Global. And here's what the update version looks like. So on here, he grabs, slams you, and if you hold it in, you obviously can get the bigger slam right there. And this one has a sweep technology. And when you hold him and he slams there, if you have this skill unlocked, it doesn't show it right now, but he does actually jump again, like this one over here, and do that additional slam. They've changed the behavior of the skill and improved it to enable additional attack. So the additional attack right here does consume 60 MP when using it. If you fail to grab this target with this skill, you cannot use the additional attack. That's pretty obvious. And the deep cooldown reduction effect was applied as a default. So the deep cooldown reduction effect was this. Once you had the skill leveled up, it would reduce the skill cooldown rate by 3 seconds. So as you see here, I don't have it. It's at 15 seconds. This is automatically applied here because they got rid of it on the new update. and it's just automatically 12 seconds now. And they also added a flow jump technique in its place, which is this combo effect. It's called flow jump. And what it does is if you click on it, you get invincibility, and if you jump while holding the skill button. So jump while holding the skill button, and you get invincibility. So you're getting some invincibility, some iframes tied to your grab. So they just beefed up that grab skill very nicely. The next skill is Raging Thunder, the spin to win skill. They did beef this up as well. They've added improvements have been made so that you can immediately use the swipe, Rain of Fear, and Split the Wind of a Flying Beast while using these skills. So you can use additional skills like Beastly Wind / Quicker is what they're saying. The deepening increased range effect was applied as a default. So you did have this range effect right here. So now that's automatically applied to the skill over here. So 10% increased range on that spin to win skill, and that was pretty nice. And as a default, they added slow storm step technology. So they actually added a combo effect. And this combo effect, when you hold the skill button in, attack speed increased when storm step is not applied, and movement speed increased when it is applied. They also increased the PvE damage from 375 over here, as you can see, to 400% over here. They did leave the 9 hits, so you're getting 25% on 9 hits in total increase on that damage for that skill. Very nice update. That's definitely going to make them a lot faster at PvE farming, and that's a lot better for PvP, guild versus guild, node versus node, because this is a big skill for that. It does offer that super armor for guild versus guild and node wars, so they did beef up that skill. They also added a nice buff to Earth Shatter. They offered it Forward Guard and a Super Armor when you use the skill combo effect. Neither of these do work in the arena, but they are definitely nice improvements to that class to make them a little bit more viable for larger scale PvP. They also added a minor buff to Beastly Wind Slash, increased the movement distance of the skill so you actually move farther. So you can't really see it here, but he does have some decent range as far as closing gaps with the skill, and they increased the range on that. Very nice for PvP. The next skill that got an overhaul is Lava Piercer. What they did was they added the length of the skill. They added a sub-skill to it called Horror Imprint. So you can see over here they do not have it, and over here they do have it. So here's what the skill currently looks like. And it'll look the same as right here if you don't hold the skill button in. If you hold the skill button in, you actually increase the damage. As you can see here, 1000% for 2 hits. 2 hits right there. And PvP damage. You also get invincibility while jumping, and I'll show you what that looks like. And super armor during the attack, but not applied in the arena. And a bound on successful hit, as you can see right there. So let's show you what that looks like now. He runs a little bit and then jumps. So that's what Lava Piercer looks like now. And there is that bound. So there wasn't any CC applied to this skill, and now there is. They increased the length of the skill. They increased the damage output of the skill. They gave you some iframes to the skill. Definitely a hefty buff. Fearsome Tyrant is the last skill that did get a buff. There is nothing extra aside for some damage increases, PvE and PvP. You can see those right there. So it's about 40% on 5 hits. So you're looking at about a 200% increase PvE damage. And then about 15% on 5 hits again. 75% increase on that damage for that one. That is the Titan rework. That's all of the buffs that the Korea server got recently. It is quite a lot. I do, again, expect these to be coming to global at some point, whether it's this next update or, again, a month or 2 down the road. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. I appreciate you stopping by. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button. I greatly appreciate it. And with that being said, I will see you next time.